Paris, 1996. Françoise Hardy sat in a recording studio preparing to sing Leonard Cohen's Suzanne. She was 52 years old, hadn't had a hit in decades. Most people assumed her career was over. But she was about to do something that would introduce her to an entirely new generation, make an album of cover songs. Not just any covers, interpretations of the greatest songwriters of her era. Leonard Cohen, Bob Dylan, Serge Gainsbourg. The songs she chose weren't random. Each one had shaped her, influenced her, meant something profound to her artistic development. This wasn't a nostalgia project. It wasn't an attempt to capitalize on other people's work. It was a conversation, a tribute, a way of saying, these artists gave me something. Now I'm giving back by showing what their words mean through my voice. When Le Danger was released in 1996, critics were stunned. Here was Françoise Hardy, written off, forgotten, creating some of the most sophisticated, emotionally resonant interpretations of classic songs anyone had heard. She made Cohen sound more melancholic, made Dylan sound more French, made Gainsbourg sound heartbreaking instead of sardonic. She didn't just cover songs. She inhabited them, made them hers. This is the story of how Françoise Hardy became one of the great interpreters of other people's songs, how she chose which masters to honor, and how, in covering their work, she found her own voice again. By the mid-1990s, Françoise had been making music for over 30 years. She'd written hundreds of songs, created a substantial original catalog. So why, at 52, turn to covers? Several reasons, all connected. Creative block. She was struggling to write. Depression. Aging. The sense that she'd said everything she had to say. Her own words felt exhausted. Financial necessity. Cover albums are cheaper to produce. No songwriting time. Just interpretation. For an artist without major label support, this mattered. Artistic curiosity. She'd always been interested in interpretation. How different voices change meaning. What happens when you take a song written by a man and sing it as a woman? Or take an English song and sing it in French? Homage. She wanted to honor the artists who'd influenced her. Bob Dylan, Leonard Cohen, Serge Gainsbourg. These men had shaped her understanding of what songs could be. She wanted to acknowledge that debt. But most importantly, she could say through their words what she couldn't say through her own anymore. When you're depressed, when you're depleted, sometimes you need to borrow language. The right poem, the right lyrics. Words that express what you feel but can't articulate. For Françoise in the mid-90s, Cohen's lyrics, Dylan's poetry, Gainsbourg's darkness, these became her voice when her own voice had gone quiet. The first question, which songs to cover? Françoise approached this methodically. Made lists. Listened to hundreds of songs. Considered what would work in French, what would work in her voice, what would say something meaningful. She had criteria. 1. Personal connection. She only covered songs that meant something to her, that had influenced her or expressed feelings she recognized. 2. Translatable emotion. Some songs only work in their original language. She looked for songs whose emotional core would survive translation. 3. Room for interpretation. She avoided songs that were perfect as they were. She wanted songs where her voice could add something, change something, reveal something new. 4. Thematic coherence. The songs needed to work together as an album. Tell a story. Create an emotional arc. From hundreds of possibilities, she narrowed to about 20 songs. Then recorded 15. Released 12 on the final album. Let's look at some specific choices. Leonard Cohen, Suzanne. She'd loved this song since first hearing it in 1967. The way Cohen made sadness holy, made loneliness mystical. She wanted to make it even more melancholic, more intimate. Bob Dylan, Just Like a Woman. She'd been Bob Dylan's dream girl. Now she was covering Dylan. The circularity appealed to her. Also, the song's complexity, about feminine vulnerability, about protection and exposure, resonated with her experiences. Serge Gainsbourg, La Javanaise. Gainsbourg had written some of her biggest hits, including Comment T Dire Du. He'd recently died, 1991. This was tribute, acknowledgement, saying goodbye to someone who'd understood her artistically. The Rolling Stones, Painted Black. Unexpected choice. But she heard sadness in this song that the Stones' aggressive performance masked. She wanted to expose that sadness. Make it explicit. Each choice was deliberate. Meaningful. Not just, here's a famous song I'll sing, but here's a song that matters to me, and here's why. Let's talk about what Françoise actually did with these songs. She didn't just sing them differently. She reimagined them completely. Take Suzanne, Leonard Cohen. Cohen's original is mystical, hypnotic, with his deep voice and simple guitar. It's about transcendence through loneliness, about finding beauty in isolation. Françoise's version is slower, quieter, more intimate. She sings it like a prayer, like she's telling you a secret. Where Cohen's version feels universal, a philosophical meditation, Françoise's feels personal, like she's singing about her own experience of loneliness as sacred. The French translation adds layers. Suzanne takes you down / to her place near the river becomes Suzanne / presse de la Seine. The French sound softer, more romantic, more Parisian. Critics called her version definitive. Not better than Cohen. Nothing's better than Cohen singing Cohen, but equally valid. A completely different emotional experience. Or, just like a woman, Bob Dylan. Dylan's original is complicated. Some hear misogyny. Others hear empathy. It's ambiguous. Is he criticizing women for being weak or sympathizing with feminine vulnerability? Françoise's version, sung in French by a woman, changes everything. When she sings but she breaks just like a little girl, it's not criticism. It's self-recognition. She's singing about herself, about her own fragility, about how women are expected to be strong but are still vulnerable underneath. The misogyny debate disappears. It becomes a song about the gap between expectation and reality, between how women appear and how they feel. That's the power of reinterpretation. The same words, different voice, different meaning. Serge Gainsbourg deserves special attention because his relationship with Françoise was unique. He'd written some of her biggest hits.
Comment te dire adieu, 1968. La chanson de Prévert, 1963.
He understood her voice, knew how to write for her specific melancholy. But he'd also been difficult, egotistical, brilliant but exhausting. Their professional relationship was productive but complicated. When Gainsbourg died in 1991, Françoise felt complex grief, relief. He'd been self-destructive, drinking himself to death, and watching that was painful. But also loss. He'd understood something about her artistically that few people did. On Le Danger, 1996, she covered several Gainsbourg songs. La Javanaise, one of his most beautiful songs, about love and loss, about words that rhyme with love. She sang it as elegy, as goodbye to Gainsbourg himself. Initials BB, originally about Brigitte Bardot. Sultry, sexual in Gainsbourg's version. In Françoise's version, it became something else, not sexual but sensual, not aggressive but intimate. Critics noted that Françoise understood Gainsbourg better than most interpreters. Because she'd worked with him. Because he'd written for her voice. Because they'd shared artistic wavelength even when personality-wise they clashed. Her Gainsbourg covers weren't imitation. They were continuation, carrying his artistic vision forward after his death. Serge wrote for me when I couldn't write for myself, she said in a 1997 interview. Now I'm singing his words when he can't anymore. It feels like completing a circle. Here's something fascinating about cover songs. They reveal the interpreter as much as the original. When Françoise covered Leonard Cohen, she revealed her own mysticism, her spiritual searching, her belief that sadness can be holy. When she covered Bob Dylan, she revealed her intellectualism, her ability to inhabit complex, poetic lyrics and make them emotionally immediate. When she covered Gainsbourg, she revealed her sensuality, her French sophistication, her understanding of how sexuality and sadness intertwine. When she covered the Rolling Stones, she revealed her ability to find sadness anywhere. to hear melancholy even in rock songs. Each cover was a mirror. The original song reflected back, but with Françoise's emotional fingerprints all over it. Music critics noted this. Hardy doesn't disappear into these songs. She transforms them into Hardy songs. That's the mark of a great interpreter. This is difficult. Bad covers either copy the original, pointless, or distort it beyond recognition, disrespectful. Great covers honor the original while making it new. Françoise threaded that needle perfectly. You could hear the original song, but you also heard her. Both existed simultaneously. This takes extraordinary artistic confidence, especially for someone who'd spent decades doubting herself, struggling with depression, feeling artistically inadequate. But at 52, covering the masters, Françoise had found a different kind of confidence. Not, "I'm great," but "I have something valid to say about these songs. My interpretation matters." That quiet confidence, earned through decades of struggle, made her covers powerful. Le Danger, 1996, was supposed to be a minor release. Small label. Limited distribution. For hardcore fans only. Instead, it became a phenomenon. Critics praised it lavishly. The best interpretive album by a French artist in decades. Hardy proves she's still vital, still relevant, still extraordinary. Radio started playing it. Not mainstream pop stations, they still ignored her, but culture stations. Alternative stations. Stations that played serious music. Younger listeners discovered her. People in their 20s and 30s who'd never heard her 1960s work found Le Danger and were stunned. "Who is this?" they asked. "How have I never heard of her?" Sales were modest by mainstream standards, but significant for Françoise. The album went gold in France, her first gold record since the 1970s. More importantly, it repositioned her. She was no longer that 60s singer who disappeared. She was a vital contemporary artist. Someone still creating, still relevant. Concert offers increased. Not stadium tours, she was 52, that era was over, but prestigious venues. Festivals. The kind of bookings serious artists get. Critics started reevaluating her entire career. We dismissed her as nostalgia. But listen to this work. She's been evolving all along. We just stopped paying attention. This is the magic of a great late career work. It forces people to reconsider everything that came before. Françoise Hardy wasn't just a 60s icon. She was an artist who'd been working seriously for 35 years. And Le Danger proved she was still at the top of her game. The success of Le Danger led to more cover projects. Clair-Obscur, 2000. Another covers album. More Dylan. More Cohen. Some newer artists too. Continued the interpretive approach. Tante Belle Choses, 2004. Mixed original songs and covers. By now she was comfortable moving between writing and interpreting. With each album, her interpretive skills deepened. She became known as one of the great song interpreters in French music. This reputation brought opportunities. Other artists asked her to guest on their albums, to lend her interpretive voice to their songs. Younger French artists cited her interpretations as influential. They'd learned from her how to make covers meaningful. Music schools studied her technique. This is how you honor song while making it your own. But the most important impact was personal. Covering these songs reconnected Françoise with why she loved music. "I'd forgotten," she said in a 2005 interview. "I'd been so focused on my own struggles, my own songs, my own inadequacies. I'd forgotten that music is bigger than me, that I can be part of this conversation that includes Dylan and Cohen and Gainsbourg, that I can contribute." Covering masters reminded her she was part of a lineage. She'd been influenced by these artists. Now younger artists were being influenced by her. That's how art works. Each generation building on the previous. "I'm not just Françoise Hardy, struggling depressive," she realized. "I'm Françoise Hardy, link in a chain of artists trying to make sense of existence through song." That's enough. That's more than enough. Let's end with Françoise's philosophy about covering other artists' work. In a 2010 interview, she was asked, "What's the point of cover songs? Why not just listen to the originals?" Her answer revealed deep understanding. A cover song is like a translation. You can read Baudelaire in English, but if you read him in French, you get something different. Both are valid. Both reveal different aspects of the work. When I sing Cohen in French, I'm translating, not just linguistically, but emotionally. I'm showing what his words mean to a French woman who's lived a certain life. That's different from what they mean to Cohen. Both meanings coexist. Also, covering is conversation. When I sing Dylan, I'm responding to him, saying, yes, I understand this, or, but here's another way to hear this. It's dialogue across time. Finally, covering is humility. It's saying, I don't need to write all the words. Sometimes other people have already written what needs to be said. I can add my voice to theirs. This philosophy, covering as translation, conversation, humility, elevated her interpretive work above mere performance. She wasn't just a singer doing covers. She was an artist in dialogue with other artists, honoring them while asserting her own perspective. That dual awareness, respect for the original plus confidence in her interpretation, made her covers transcendent. In covering Leonard Cohen, Bob Dylan, and Serge Gainsbourg, Françoise Hardy honored the three types of songwriting that had most influenced her. Cohen, the mystical, the idea that sadness can be holy, that loneliness can be spiritual practice. Dylan, the poetic, the idea that lyrics can be complex, layered, open to multiple interpretations. Gainsbourg, the sophisticated, the idea that French language itself is musical, that wordplay and emotion can coexist. Each master gave her something. Each shaped her understanding of what songs could do. By covering them, she wasn't saying, I'm as good as they are. She was saying, I learned from them. Here's what I learned. Here's how I'm carrying it forward. That's the most meaningful kind of tribute. Not imitation, but continuation. The masters are gone now. Cohen died 2016. Dylan's still working, but in his 80s. Gainsbourg died 1991, but their songs continue. And every time Françoise Hardy sang one of their songs, she kept them alive, showed new generations why these masters mattered. That's the gift of great interpretation. It's not about the interpreter. It's about keeping great art alive, showing why it still matters, why it's still relevant. Françoise Hardy, at her best, did exactly that. I'm not great because I covered great songs. I'm grateful because great songs let me be part of greatness. That's different. That's humility. That's recognizing you're part of something larger than yourself. That's the only way to approach covering masters, not to compete with them, but to serve the songs they created. If my voice helps those songs reach new ears, I've done my job. That's enough. Françoise Hardy, 2008.